Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
The views expressed by J. Michael McCoy are the views of the hosts and guests of Max World Live, and not necessarily the views of Webcast One Live, its staff, its management, the cleaning crew, Dave the electric guy, the guy who cleans the skywalk, the woman who brought in the cookies, the management staff of Hubble Real Estate, the parking lot attendant at Keck Parking, the wait staff over at Miss Kitty's, the coffee crew at Frederick's, the man in the street corner willing to work for food, Rob Spearman, Max Crabb, or anyone else of sound mind. Should you be offended, provoked, intimidated, shocked, confused, or just made to think independently, log on to MaxWorldLive.com right now. It's your voice we want to hear in Max World. And now, live from the palatial studios of Webcast One Live, your host, J. Michael McCoy.
All right, thank you, Mr. Libby. 4 minutes after the third day of February in the Lord's year 2015. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Max World Live here on 99.3 The Truth. Tom Coates in the house, as always, on Tuesday. Now, we're going to have you and a very special guest next week.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned right up front before our guest gets here. We're waiting for Kevin Hall, who we always enjoy having on.
Mm-hmm.
But next week, ladies and gentlemen, have a very special guest coming on. We had him on 3 years ago, Mac, prior to
Has
the
it been that long?
Iowa Prayer Breakfast. He was our keynote speaker.
Wow.
You'll recognize perhaps the title of the book, 90 Minutes in Heaven. It was a bestseller, sold 6 million copies worldwide. And Don and his wife are coming into town they're speaking on the 15th, coming in on the 14th, so it'll be a week from Saturday. But we're going to have him on next Tuesday on the show for our guest. And not only is the story very special, but it was just announced recently. His son told me, Chris, that they are starting production this last month on a major motion picture detailing his life. There's a fellow named Christensen who appeared in a number of movies, starred in the Star Wars prequel, and then Kate Bosworth, who was Lois Lane in the Superman Returns, and so many other roles as well, playing his wife. And so it's a major one. It'll be distributed by Sony Pictures, come out in maybe 2,500 theaters. Expected this fall, this October, but it'll be on the lines of the movie Heaven is for Real and God is Not Dead type of movie, but good size budget, major distribution, and it sold like hotcakes when it was on the newsstand. He's written 3 subsequent books. I'm reading one right now, and we'll look forward to Don's interview next Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. So tune in for that; it'll be great.
Yeah, and now, we haven't talked about this before, but if I recall, he was the one that spoke at the Iowa Prayer Breakfast and had the slides. Didn't he have the pictures of what his automobile looked like?
I think he did. I think he did.
This is the guy that was leaving the prayer session,
yes,
right?
Yes,
or a conference or something?
Yes. And he went a route where it took him across a bridge, and an 18-wheeler ran over the top of him, driven by a prison inmate. They let the prison inmate drive this 18-wheeler and lost control of it, and he drove over the top of Don, and Don was clinically dead. He says, the difference between a near-death experience and mine is that I was absolutely dead. And he said, if I hadn't have been, he said, my leg being severed and left in the front seat, my arm being severed and put in the back seat, I would have bled out very quickly. He said, my heart did not beat for 90 minutes. And he was prayed back into his body by a man that was told by God to get into the red car and pray for him. You remember some of this story now?
And because the state patrolman, this guy stopped and said, hey, is there anything I can do? And he said, I don't think we have any survivors. I'm pretty sure that guy in that car's dead.
Yep.
So he went over to pray with him, and was he singing?
He finally got tired after that long of praying, and he went to singing. And he was singing, "Oh, What a Friend We Have in Jesus," when Don came back into his body and started singing with him.
Right.
And he jumped out of the car, and he told the police, he said, the dead man is singing. And you remember, Mac, one of the questions that you ask him is about what the angels look like up there. Do you remember that answer? You ask him if he saw the 2-wing regular kind or the 6-wing seraphim.
Yeah.
And he said, actually, I saw both, and some of the angels had no wings at all. Do you remember that? And he said, I was not prepared for the sound of the wings. He said you can hear the sound of the wings. And, of course, the music, 1,000 hymns going off at the same time and all fitting together, dramatic testimony. So we'll look forward to that next week.
All right, so when he comes to Des Moines to speak live, where's he speaking at?
He's going to be speaking at the Norwalk High School Auditorium.
Okay.
We had Van Harden on here to promo his appearance there. Simon Estes spoke there. Sang there. We also had Bill Weiss. Remember 23 Minutes in Hell, Bill Weiss? And he came into town a couple years ago, and he spoke at the Norwalk Auditorium. So we've had a number of people come in. I don't expect a reception of this magnitude with anything we've done so far. Those other three were all big ones. I think, Don, if we promote it because of his success here and his 6 million book sales, I think we could have more than a packed house. 940 people are held by that auditorium, and I think it might be challenged. We're going to have two services, 8:30 and 10:30 on that Sunday morning on the 15th of February.
And that's kind of a non-denominational group of churches in Norwalk.
Interdenominational. There's 3, maybe now 4 different churches that have linked arms, and they're coming in to put on this presentation, as they did with Van and as they did with Bill.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so we'll have him on next week, and then you're gone. You're gallivanting the world for the next 2 weeks after that.
I'm out on business for 2 weeks after that, Matt.
Yeah, business, my. All right, 10 minutes after the hour, we're joined by Kevin Hall, who is, what is your title?
Rabble-rouser. I call it writer.
Here's how I see you. What's the name of the gentleman that is always on Channel 8 when it comes to politics?
Oh, Dennis Goldford.
Yes.
No, I put Kevin quite a few paces above. Let's be fair to Kevin. I put him quite a few paces above Dennis Goldford.
But that's because
thank
you
you
don't
for that
agree with
compliment.
Dennis.
Well, I know Dennis.
Oh. But that's really kind of where you're heading in our community, is you're well known in local as well as regional politics.
Correct.
All right.
Yes.
And you're on Great Day with Lou on Tuesdays?
Yes, Tuesdays around 7:20.
So you were on this morning.
Yes.
And what did you talk about this morning?
We talked about Scott Walker and how he seems to be the front runner now for the GOP nomination for president. Mentioned Mitt Romney dropping out, talked a little bit about Jeb Bush, and, of course, I do the show with a Democrat strategist who, of course, wanted to bring up Hillary.
Who's that?
Well, it's
I thought Democrat and strategist is an oxymoron.
it's either, this morning it was Sam Recker, and it's either him or Jeff Link. They both work
Jeff
for
Link.
Link Strategies, which
Okay.
is probably the top Democrat consulting firm in the state. They managed Harkin's campaigns for many years. They managed Braley's campaign. And they do
Let's
campaigns.
put that one on the resume.
Well,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
even
they didn't
went
do-
to
they
work
didn't have a good year.
for Gary Kirk, trying to put the casino in Warren County.
Correct. Yep.
Not a successful record there. It would be nice if you could generate the kind of revenue they generate,
Mm-hmm.
though. I suspect.
They were also involved in the casino deal on the other side in Lynn County.
Yes. So they're a hired gun. They'll go whichever
Yes.
way you want them to go if you
Yes.
got the green.
Unless you're a Republican, they're
Well,
adamantly
Gary Kirk.
Well, but in terms of electing a Republican for
that's
Republican
true.
causes,
That's
they're
true.
adamantly anti-Republican.
I was just given a vision, an epiphany. I can see the new major Republican strategy company. You know what it's called?
What's it called?
Hall and Coates.
Interesting.
Well, we'll see.
Huh?
We'll see. I don't
Add
know
a
if
little
anybody.
vitamin C to your oats, and you got Coates.
If Kevin could generate some on his own, I would certainly be an anchor to that effort. I'm certain.
All right. Well, we have several things we'd like to talk about today.
Okay.
And first of all, I'll let you start. What do you think is the top thing going on right now locally or regionally?
Well, I think, the Register is out with their poll of the presidential hopefuls, and I do think it's big that Scott Walker is in the lead, and deservedly so. He had an outstanding speech at the Iowa Freedom Summit put on by Steve King 2 weekends ago, and he went into that with a lot of people saying he's not that great of a speaker, so he's likely to struggle at this event. And he just knocked it out of the park. I mean, it was a great, fantastic speech. People were on their feet, they were cheering, they were clapping. It was a really, really good speech. And he has the record to back it up. So the Register, the Iowa poll came out Saturday evening, showed him with a 1-point lead. There's 5 candidates that are right there, all within 6 points. But Walker is the front runner right now, which, being a year away from the Iowa caucuses, isn't necessarily a great thing for him because he's already taking arrows from both sides. But if he can sustain this, he's a legitimate contender to win the presidency.
How we live in Iowa, we take for granted what happens here, every 3 years.
Absolutely, yes.
How important is Iowa when it comes to the rest of the nation?
It's hugely important.
Okay.
We vet the candidates. Now, we don't always pick the winner, but we decide who goes on to New Hampshire and South Carolina. And we cut the clutter and figure out who's not viable. 4 years ago was Tim Pawlenty, who that was a mix of him not being a strong candidate and some strategic errors made by his campaign where they invested everything in the straw poll. I think that was a bad mistake on their part. But Iowa is vitally important, and a lot of states are jealous of our role in it, and deservedly so.
Yeah.
They think we have an oversized say in the matter, and they might have an argument there, but we know how to do it. We know how to vet these candidates.
Who makes that decision? Who's the wizard behind the curtain?
Well, it's the parties together, and the RNC and the DNC work together on this to set out the schedule. And thankfully, the one thing the Republican Party of Iowa and the Iowa Democratic Party work hard together on is to keep Iowa's first in the nation status. That is the one thing where they are cohesive, and they work very hard to make sure we maintain that. And our governor, is a strong advocate for that as well.
Terry Branstad.
Absolutely.
I remember when Barack Obama won the caucus here, and I had friends from all over the nation calling me going, who? Who? And he was unstoppable after that.
Yes, he was. It was funny because we're looking at what seems to be a coronation for Hillary Clinton
once again
in 2016, and that was what it looked like for a large chunk for 2007 going into 2008.
Yeah.
But she was beaten in every measurable way. Obama was a better candidate. His campaign was better at organizing. Hillary's not a good candidate. She's not. She says a lot of really stupid things.
Right.
And she doesn't like retail politics. She doesn't want to have to go to the coffee shops in Greenfield, Iowa, and shake hands and meet the same people over and over. She disdains that. And you notice she's only been here once since that caucus night, January 3rd, 2007, and that was for the Harkin steak fry. She has not been back since.
Wow.
It took her, 6 years, however long that was, came for the Harkin steak fry in September, and we still haven't seen her. And the Democrats are getting antsy because one thing about having the presidential candidates here, it draws people out to your events. It fires up the base. It gets people involved in county party fundraisers. It is a party-building exercise. And State Senator Jeff Danielson from up in Cedar Falls is one, and there are others who are worried that Hillary's not going to try very hard here because you look at the polls, she's running away with it. She has no real competition right now. And if she's not going to play here and none of the other candidates are viable, that's bad news for the Iowa Democrats.
Interesting observation, I'd say. And would you say that your prediction at this point is that unless Elizabeth Warren or somebody else, Biden, it doesn't look like he can get a puff of smoke, unless somebody comes up and really challenges her, she won't spend much time in Iowa. That's your prediction.
That is my prediction. I mean, Martin O'Malley is the one candidate who's made some headway. He's hired an Iowa campaign manager, a guy who worked on Braley and Hatch's campaign. We saw how well that worked out. Yeah. But, a very liberal governor from Maryland who barely made a crack in that Iowa poll. Nobody knows who he is. I don't think he's that impressive of a guy, so I don't see him making a lot of headway. is there any other than Elizabeth Warren? I'm not sure there's anybody on their side that can contend with her.
Kevin Hall, would you say you're a political strategist or a Republican strategist?
I'm a Republican, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
But you can call me whatever you want.
He's coming back live with Tom Coates and me on The Truth. Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
All right, welcome back. 21 minutes after the hour, third day of February in the Lord's year 2015. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Coming up on Thursday, I've got two guys in my Bible study named Jim and Theodore. And these guys are just knock it out of the park Bible guys. No arrogance, just really nice guys. And so Thursday they're coming in and I'm going to play the atheist. And the conversation is proof of God. And believe me, I've hung around enough atheists and agnostics that I know all the tricks and all the games they play. And so we're going to do that on Thursday, and I think you'll enjoy it. That's Thursday here, 3 o'clock on The View from a Pew. All right, Kevin Hall, who is a Republican strategist, blogger. How do people find your stuff?
The IowaRepublican.com is the best way. Just go to that website, the IowaRepublican.com.
All right, and you join in with Shane Vanderhart? No, he's Caffeinated Thoughts.
Yeah, Craig Robinson is the founder
that's right.
of the website.
He just had
We've had Craig on the show different times.
Yeah, and he just had adopted a baby, right, about a year ago?
I think it went through 5 or 6 months ago. The baby's, I believe, is 11 months old now.
Okay, good.
But yeah, great story.
Yeah, Craig's a good guy.
He is. He's a really good guy. And I'm sure him and his wife Amanda, I'm sure, are great parents. They've wanted a kid for a while now, I know. And the kid is as cute as can be.
Looks like his adopted mother. Nothing like his adopted father, I hear.
Well, that's good for the kids.
Yeah.
That's good news.
Back to the presidential stuff for just a second. We talk about Scott Walker being a front runner, and I know that's your passion, and that's what you talk about, and that's the lead story right now. I just want to tap my foot and get me 9 months later. I want to get to the fair because it'll. Straw poll is when?
Have not set a date for it yet.
It's usually fall, right?
No, the straw poll is usually in August.
All right. Yes. Okay.
And they have not set a date for it yet. They haven't found a permanent location for it yet. It might not be at Iowa State University.
Really?
Might it be on the fairgrounds? Is a possibility, I heard.
They're looking at that. They're also looking in Boone, where they have the Farm Progress Show. That
That's a
area.
nice area.
They're accepting bids on venues for another about week and a half, I believe.
Okay.
And then we should know something. I'd be surprised if it moves away from Ames.
Des Moines would be convenient, though, for some of the candidates wanting to fly in and get back out, wouldn't it?
The problem is if you're looking to have it in August, you can't really have the fairgrounds because you got the fair going on.
Why not have it at the fairgrounds?
Well, at the fairgrounds, but not at fair time.
It would have to be probably after the fair.
So you may be early September then.
And I think they want to keep it, in the summer. It's usually around August 10th, August 11th, somewhere around there. So
could do it well before the fair, maybe July even.
That's a possibility.
Well, we're just brainstorming here, but no, we're really just guessing. But why don't they make it one of the grandstand shows on a Saturday and do that on a Saturday?
Well, I think, there's so much other stuff going on involved with the straw poll. There's each candidate has their own tent, and they bring in musical acts and food.
That's
and,
true. That's true.
I mean, just the speeches and the actual vote. There's so much more that goes into that. All these, conservative groups and Republican groups have a tent there. The IRepublican.com, we had our own tent last time, teamed up with Google. We gave out free pop all day. And
you can do it right at the fair. I mean, they can handle big crowds.
Well, that's true.
It could actually grow to be a bigger event, and they could change the profile of this thing a little bit and actually improve it. I don't know. Maybe I'm prejudiced, but I just think that getting in and out of Des Moines for the candidates, their assistants, the ability to handle large crowds. I heard that the fairgrounds is being talked about and discussed, and I thought that made some sense to me.
If it doesn't interfere with other things going on at the fair, then yeah. But I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what they decide.
What's the narrative behind the naysayers in the Republican Party of the Iowa straw poll?
They're worried that it could potentially damage our first in the nation status, which is the number one priority. And Governor Branstad has been a critic of the Iowa straw poll, and that's his main reasoning. And they don't want it. The media makes such a big deal out of it and views it as the first real presidential contest. And I think people want to get it away from that, and we don't necessarily have the big names coming here all the time. Mitt Romney skipped it last time. Newt Gingrich he was there, but he didn't buy a tent or anything. He had no real campaign structure at that point, which is amazing because in late November, early December, he briefly became the front runner again. So they're scared that some of the candidates will stay away. But I think with this year's field, as many candidates as we have and as strong as candidates we have, if a few of the candidates don't want to come, that's fine, because there's going to be plenty that are going to want to compete in that. And it's a fun event. It really is. I mean, where else are you going to get 25,000, 30,000 Republicans all together on one day to have a day-long festival?
Yeah. Well, Iowa State, the candidates coming to the Iowa State Fair, the candidates going to the straw poll, which is more important to the state? Straw poll?
To the state as a whole?
I mean, that Des Moines Register soapbox.
Yeah.
That always makes national news.
It does make national news, usually for the wrong reasons,
yes,
though, because you get a couple of idiot hecklers out there.
Yeah, they've done that. But from a fundraising standpoint, there's no question that the straw poll is the generator there.
Yeah.
That bully law that Branstad's putting up is so terrible. Maybe we could get hecklers in there, too.
I think having the straw poll also leads them to go visit the fair as well, because they'll come up the day before or the week before. They'll do the register soapbox and then spend the day at the straw poll. So it's hard to say which is better. I think the two work pretty well together. In terms of the Republican Party, the straw poll is obviously much more important. It's a big fundraiser for the state party.
Kevin, let's go back for a second and talk about Walker. I've been hearing some of the buzz since that happened, and of course I think it overall helps Walker because it looks like a lot of people, as much as we think he's been a huge success in Wisconsin, I guess that there's a lot of people that really haven't paid much attention. They've kind of ignored this. They don't know what's going on up in Wisconsin. They don't know the successes that he's had. This has a chance to give him a national profile where I'm surprised, but he really had very little up until now.
Yeah, it is kind of funny because he has gotten a lot of publicity in Wisconsin because they had the recall election there. He went up there, campaigned on reforming the budget and getting it back in shape,
and kicking the unions in the private parts.
Right. He stripped collective bargaining from some of the public unions, and the liberals just went nuts.
Oh, the unions
over
put
that.
all sorts of money and resources against him.
Millions and millions, and they tried to recall him. And it's funny, he ran against the same candidate that he beat in 2010, and in the recall, he beat him by a wider margin. And then won re-election just last November. So he's won statewide in a blue state.
You took the words out of my mouth. And keep in mind, this is not a red or even a purple state. This is a blue state.
A Republican president has not won Wisconsin in 31 years.
There you go.
Ronald Reagan in 1984 when he won 49 states. That's the last time a Republican won in Wisconsin. It's a blue state. And here you have a guy who has won statewide 3 out of the last 4 years there. I mean, that says a lot about the job that he's done and the respect that he garners in that blue state. And he is a conservative. It's not because he governs as a moderate, as Mitt Romney did in Massachusetts. He has governed as a conservative.
And Kevin, don't you think from a Republic, I mean, we're already feeling somewhat betrayed. We turned out in big numbers. We won some big victories just in November. And we feel betrayed in so many areas right now by the leadership in Washington, the House and the Senate. And we're getting very discouraged. If we can't put up a candidate like a Walker that can generate some true grassroots support, we could get our butts kicked. I mean, even in spite of that thing we did in November, there's a lot of people who are so discouraged now, they're signing off. They don't want anything else to do with the ballot box.
Well, the national media and the D.C. establishment wants to thrust Jeb Bush on us.
Yes.
Or Mitt Romney. They wanted Romney, and he's backed out. And Romney, to his credit, has said we need a new, fresh face. And I'm sorry, Jeb Bush might have been a good governor in Florida, but he's not new. He's not a fresh face just because his last name is Bush.
Right.
The worst thing, in my opinion, that Republicans can do is nominate Jeb Bush to run against Hillary Clinton because it takes away what would be a very strong narrative of looking forward, bringing in something new as opposed to somebody whose prime was in the last century. We need to look forward, a bold vision looking forward, and just the Bush name, I think, will be a drag as well. I mean, God love George W. Bush, but he, his domestic policy was not very conservative. He spent like crazy, and Americans were war weary by the time he left office, and he left with a terrible approval rating, and that would hurt Jeb Bush as well. I mean, there's no question they're going to tie Jeb to George and all the policies that that made George W. unpopular. So, we haven't even seen Jeb Bush. He has not come here at all.
He doesn't seem to want to play in Iowa.
Has he announced?
No.
Not officially, but
not officially, but he's hired David Kochel to be his national campaign manager or campaign strategist, which was Mitt Romney's Iowa guy. So, I mean, he's running. It's pretty obvious he's running.
Kevin, let's look at now. We've talked about Walker, marginal lead early on. Who else is a legitimate candidate right now in your mind that could fill this role? Okay, we put Jeb Bush over the side, establishment candidate, a lot of money. Chris Christie may be kind of over in that wing too.
Yeah.
But who else do you see out here?
Christie's in trouble because his approval ratings have gone totally in reverse.
Yeah.
4 years ago, he would have been a legitimate contender, but unless some major changes happened, Chris Christie is not going to do very well. I think there's a bunch of them. There's Rick Perry. There's Ted Cruz. There's Rand Paul. I mean, none of these guys are perfect, and no one is, other than, of course, the Lord God, our Savior.
Right.
There's several. Ben Carson is an intriguing candidate. I think Marco Rubio is another one. There's a long line of Republican candidates who are serious about getting in this race, who can make a strong case. I mean, you look at Rick Perry, the job he did in Texas as governor. 1/3 of the new jobs that have been created in the United States over the past 14 years were created in Texas when Rick Perry was governor there. 1/3 of the new jobs in the entire country were created under Rick Perry's leadership.
I like Perry too.
I
I think perhaps some of that's going to slow down with the oil changing.
Yeah.
I think many of those jobs were energy jobs. One person you haven't mentioned yet is Mike Huckabee. There's a lot of people saying,
yes,
I
absolutely.
like governors, and I'm in that camp. I like a governor versus a legislator. Nothing against Paul or Rubio or Cruz, but I like a guy that's been an administrator. It's a different set of skills. And I think we would be well off to get a governor in there as our candidate, and there's certainly no shortage when we're talking about former governors.
Well, that was the debate I was having this morning with Sam Recker, the Democrat. Yeah, he started attacking Scott Walker's record on jobs and say, oh, well, he didn't create as many jobs as he promised. And I said, well, how many jobs has Hillary Clinton created? Zero.
Yeah. Zero. Kevin Hall, the Iowa Republican, along with Tom Coates. When we come back, we got spanked by our own GOP in the House and Senate last week with the abortion bill. What does that mean? Are we just fools? Do we have stupid written on our forehead? It's next on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Homs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed. Fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money-back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're gonna make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
All right, 22 before the top. Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff with True Blue from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. And we appreciate you coming by and taking a listen this afternoon. If you're listening live on 99.3 The Truth or on webcast1live.com, we appreciate that. If you're listening to this on a podcast, appreciate you even more, because podcasts have taken over the world. You know, I can remember, I'm a radio guy, 40... We added this up the other day, didn't you? No, it wasn't you. It was 41 years.
Wow.
Straight. And I can remember when this podcast stuff started, and I thought, what a joke. You know, who's gonna go back and listen to a radio program? Well, all the time, don't we?
Yes. Yes.
You know, it used to be that if I'd say something stupid on the air, which was quite often, it would be gone and nobody would hear it. Now it's in the clouds thanks to Ryan, the producer over there, and everybody can hear it for years and years.
That's right.
But we probably have 4 to 5 times the number of people listening on podcasts that we do live on the radio. That's just incredible to this old radio guy. Kevin Hall, Iowa Republican. Tom Coates, Republican. I don't know. You're just you've been around a long, long time. Never switched sides. Always stuck to your core values.
Yeah.
I mean, have you been here longer than Grassley in Iowa?
No, I don't think so.
Do you do a 99 county tour every year?
Well, you ought to be out at the what's the building? Varied Industries building during the fair. I've sat in his booth during the fair, and people come up to him like he's Floppy, some big star. You know, oh, I know you on the television.
Yeah, we've done that, haven't we, Mac?
Yes. Oh man. Okay, Kevin. I listened to a preacher out of Texas. And I listened to his sermon from not last Sunday, but the Sunday before. And the guy goes off on the GOP for mungling this abortion bill that was before the House and Senate. And the GOP was the one that dumped it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. What the heck happened?
Well, it was a bill that would ban late-term abortions. They called it the Pain Capable Act, but basically would ban abortions after 20 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then some people started tinkering with it and said, well, you got to make some exceptions for rape and incest and that sort of thing. And once that talk about whether to make exceptions or not got involved in there, they became squishy and didn't know if they had enough votes to pass it. So they didn't pass it and wound up passing something else abortion related, but
weak.
Yeah, it was weak. They say they're going to try to revive it, but I'm not very optimistic about that.
Well, the public is behind them on this. I don't understand why, when you got something that much behind the public sentiment, that you can't even have enough backbone to get up and do something on that.
Even people who are pro-choice believe an abortion after 20 weeks is an abomination.
Infanticide, yeah.
And the public sentiment, you're right, is close to 70% in terms of late-term abortion should be outlawed, and we can't get that passed. Now, on the other side, too, we have purists who say it should be all or nothing.
Right.
I disagree with that. I say
so do I.
I say save every life possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I get into a debate with that with Stephen Dace or even Tim Overland, love those guys both. Yeah. Man, they beat me up horrible because they say every life counts and we shouldn't piecemeal out the abortion bill.
You take what you can get.
Well,
I mean, that is why Steve Dace is who Steve Dace is. I mean, it's all or nothing. It's, and I remember when Joel, his former boss, tossed him a bar of Ivory soap one day, and he was retelling the story to me a couple different times. And he says, "Is this pure enough for you?" because it was absolutely 100% his way or no way.
I compare it to a burning house. House on fire is 8 people inside. What are you going to do? Are you going to go try to rush in and save as many as you can, or are you just going to let the whole house burn because you can't save all of them?
Right. That's a good point. All right, grab your headphones because we are honored this afternoon to have a call from The Voice. Frank, you're live on the radio. What's up?
I think they would rather let them all burn. But, Kevin, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Do you think the Republic establishment has got it in their heads that they cannot win a presidential election without the conservatives? Because I don't think they, with this next man in line, Bob Dole, John McCain, and Mitt Romney, their strategy so far is 0-3.
Mm-hmm.
Are they finally learning the lesson that I'm not saying they got to cater to the Christian conservative, but you certainly can't tick them off and cause them to sit home like they did on Romney?
Yeah, I would. I'm not sure they've learned their lesson yet, considering that they're trying to thrust Jeb Bush on us. I would say they probably have not learned that lesson. But you're right. You look at the record. When we nominate moderates, we don't do it very well in national elections. There's no reason we can't nominate somebody who is proud to be a conservative, who has a conservative record. And thankfully, there are a lot of candidates in this field who are conservatives and not afraid to admit it. There's no reason to run away from being conservative. Conservative on the issues is the right side of the issues. So I think definitely we need to offer a contrast to Hillary Clinton, and which would basically just be Barack Obama's third term. It needs to be a stark contrast, not Democrat light.
Well, my second question would be, how do you think Scott Walker, I'll throw his name out in particular, but how do you think we're going to thread this needle between these rabid, fanatic libertarians that come out every 4 years and just beat up the talk air waves, and then they disappear for 4 years? How do you think, can we thread the needle between the rabid libertarians, the Christian conservatives, and have somebody palatable for the establishment? Can that be done? And is Scott Walker the guy? Or do you have a guy in mind who it might be?
I don't know about the libertarian wing of the party, if Scott Walker would appeal to them, but I do know, and the polling backs us up, that he is acceptable enough to the moderates and conservative enough for the Tea Party conservative wing to appeal to a wide spectrum of Republicans. Where the Liberty people are going to go, I don't know, quite frankly.
Would they automatically go for Rand Paul because of the father?
Yeah,
and if he doesn't get in there, would they tend to stay home or go for an independent candidate?
I think right now the Liberty wing, especially here in Iowa, is kind of split between Rand and Ted Cruz.
Okay.
And that shows up in the poll. I mean, Ron Paul got, 21% in the caucus. Cruz was only at 5%, and Rand had, I think, 14%. And I think that poll is off, because I think Ted Cruz is much higher than that. I think he's a lot more formidable in Iowa, at least.
Would they demand the VP spot? The Libertarians, if at minimum, would they demand, for their participation, do you think they would demand VP?
It could be, but, I'm of the mind that losers don't get to demand anything. So if they don't win the nomination, it's kind of weak to make demands. If they want a third term of Barack Obama, then they can vote for a third-party candidate. But we need to elect a bold conservative and not worry about whether or not this wing of the party is going to accept him or not. We need to broaden the base and bring home the Reagan Democrats if we're going to win elections.
Thanks a lot, Frank. I appreciate it. Now, you keep saying a third term for Barack Obama. You don't mean
no, not
really.
No, I mean Hillary Clinton would be basically a third term for Obama. Same policies, same liberal mindset.
You hear the tinfoil hat wearers that Barack Obama could do something?
No, that's,
okay, that's not going to happen.
I don't think so. I mean, I wouldn't hold anything against it, or
I
wouldn't be
given what he has done,
right? Given his
that he himself said, for instance, on immigration, that he didn't have the power to do.
24
we can't
times.
put anything past him that may be a martial law declaration for a. We were just looking at the cartoon in the paper today. I cut out and brought it in. They have labeled every Islamic terrorist act something other than Islamic terrorism. And the only terrorist that they can find is the GOP. The idea that something could happen that he could do that is a possibility, but I'm with Kevin. That's a long shot.
We're coming back. Tom Coates in the house. Kevin Hall from the Iowa Republican here live on The Truth. 99.3, powered by webcast1live.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids? Yeah!
If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? Always try to do business with people, not places. Especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart. And it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you. Minutes for the top of the hour, Salem Radio Network News, and then Michael Mudloff, True Blue, from Westkirk Presbyterian Church. Kevin Hall in from the IowaRepublican.com. That's where you can find his blogs, his rant, his raves, his common sense, and his lack of therefore. And you can also see him every Tuesday morning, 7:20 on, I always want to call it Lou's show.
Great day.
Great day.
It's pretty much Lou's show.
On Casey. Well, Lou and I go way, way back.
Great guy.
Yeah, he is a great guy. He
and the whole crew there is great.
What
Jackie,
a survivor.
Oh,
Lou
yeah.
Is, though,
I totally off topic, but I think KGGO made a huge mistake. When they got rid of Lou Brown Guy and Heather.
They made that mistake across the board with every one of those radio stations.
Yeah.
But anyway, we won't go there.
Yeah.
All right. Tom Coates is in. What's the big news that we're not here? That we haven't talked about yet today?
Nationally, vaccines is the big talk. Everybody's sounding off on that. Rand Paul was asked about it yesterday, whether or not the state should force you to vaccinate your kids, and he said no. Libertarian leaning. He obviously said no, they shouldn't. Then Chris Christie weighed in, and for some reason, vaccinations has dominated the news today because of the little measles outbreak.
Yeah. I've been surprised at the clause of the liberals towards Joni Ernst. I mean, after she did that rebuttal or whatever you want to call it for the Republicans after the State of the Union, oh my gosh, they're just coming out all over the place.
Well, I mean, they've been out for her. I mean, they tried to demonize her. They tried so hard to demonize her, make her some crazy, radical, extreme, insane woman. And then you see her on TV in the debates, and you see a very refined, classy, smart
Right.
upstanding woman, which is what she is. But yeah, they'll try anything to tear her down, but she's not going anywhere.
Let me ask you this, Kevin. Let's go back to the inoculations for a minute. There's all sorts of hypocrisy on this issue. The kid train coming out of Central America that Barack Obama engineered, and tens of thousands of illegals scattered throughout our country. Now, this year's flu vaccine was the lowest success rate vaccine that they've ever put out. I think 23% of the inoculations were successful against what's going out there. Usually we're well north of 50%. Now, I have heard it speculated that much of the types of viruses that inundated our country this year, and I caught one myself, were vaccines that were brought in from south of the border. Kids bringing in stuff that we hadn't seen for a long time, and this is why they missed it as badly as they did. And they've got these kids hidden and sequestered all over the country.
Yeah.
Branstad has said numerous times, yeah, they're here, but we don't know where they are, and the federal government won't tell us. And so they're in our schools. They're spreading it to our kids. We could have vaccines that are very effective normally, but they're bringing in stuff we haven't seen.
That's right.
And they don't seem to care about that, but they do want to take the step where it's not your kids anymore, it's the federal government's kids.
Right.
And you may not want to get them vaccinated because you may be concerned about all the potential side effects, but we're going to take them. We own them, you don't, and you're merely the caregivers, but they belong to us.
Right. It's funny how liberals are pro-choice about abortion.
Amen.
But not pro-choice on any other issue. Any other issue, whether it's owning a gun to whether or not you want to vaccinate your kid, or so many other things in this world. They want to dictate to you what you have to do. Whether or not your employer can give insurance, provide insurance to you. Everything is dictated, mandated by the government, with the exception of the life of a baby in the womb.
Well, and I've heard that they talk about racism, and Obama, this has been his catchphrase, all from the get-go, and Ferguson, everything else is generated from him, and yet the fact that he wants every abortion performed that he can. I heard not long ago that the percentage of blacks in this country, which is around, 11-12%, be up closer to 30% if we hadn't had Roe v. Wade back in 1971, because the majority of babies that are born in this country are black babies.
Yeah, they are. And it's been over 58 million since Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
58 million. You mentioned racism, and here's how insane the left's thinking is. There's this writer I think he's for Forbes. He's a liberal writer, and put out this nonsensical piece yesterday that the reason the Seahawks didn't hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch.
Yes, I heard this.
On the goal line to win the Super Bowl, which they should have,
because he's black.
It's because he's black, and they wanted
really black.
They wanted the pro-Christian, not quite as black quarterback Russell Wilson to be the hero. It's just insane. And he wrote because Wilson is half black, which is not true. Both of his parents are black. I mean, this is the liberal thinking in this country.
Yeah,
is just
that's a good point.
It's a ridiculous, idiotic mindset, and they see racism in everything.
Good point.
I have a theory that I propose to doctors and psychiatrists and things like that liberal, don't laugh, I mean this seriously, that being godless, which is being a liberal, is a mental disorder or a mental disease. That you literally are lacking something in your brain which causes you to be reasonable and not hypocritical.
Yeah. Hypocritical is a big one. There's so much hypocrisy.
I love it when a woman says to me, well, I can do whatever I want with my body. I said, good, honey, take all your clothes off and run down Walnut Street and see how far you get. And when you get down to 3rd, try to sell it to somebody for sex and see who owns your body.
Well, here's how hypocritical it is, going back to the life issue. It's my body, it's my choice.
Yeah.
But my employer has to pay for it.
Right. Or if I'm pregnant and you hit my car while I'm driving down the street and my baby dies, it's manslaughter.
Right.
But if I make it around the corner to Planned Parenthood, it's my choice.
Yeah. They go nuts if an employer says, because of my religious beliefs, I don't want to pay for your abortion. But in every other instance, their argument is, well, it's stay out of my, my body. It's my choice, my body. It makes no sense. They're unable to see that hypocrisy. It's unbelievable.
Do you think they see it in the middle of the night when they have sweat, wet dreams and sweat, and God comes, knocks them on the head and says, "Hey, little rabbit foo-foo." I mean, I'm serious. I don't talk politics for a living anymore like you do. Tom, you just do it 3 hours a day, 5 days a week. So now I'm just an observer, and it's just nuts.
It is.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Tom, thanks for being here. We'll see you next week with Don Piper.
Absolutely.
Kevin, as always, I love having you here. Ryan, thanks for producing. Frank, the voice, is here tomorrow with Joe, and I'll see you on Thursday with Theodore and Jim. The God factor. Does he really exist? I'm going to play the atheist in the conversation. Should be some fun radio. Until then, think of somebody you don't like, somebody that's poisoning your head, the resentments eat you up at night and keep you awake. Today, on your knees, give that resentment to God and forgive. I'll see you Thursday.